That winter, he sat shivering on a freezing stone bench in the middle of the park, wrapping his feet in plastic bags to keep warm. No home, no money, no family, just a torn backpack and a crushing sense of hopelessness. People passed by as if he didn't exist. He once thought, if I don't wake up tomorrow, would anyone even care? No one could have guessed that just a few years later, that same man would become a millionaire. His name is Marcus Gray. In 2017, his life collapsed in an instant. A car accident cost him his job as a delivery driver, and with it, his ability to work, at least temporarily. With no insurance and no savings, Marcus was soon forced out of his apartment because he couldn't afford rent. Every night, he wandered from bus stops to dark street corners to park benches, anywhere he could survive the night without being woken up or told to leave. He wasn't an addict. He wasn't a criminal. He was just poor in the harshest, most unforgiving sense of the word. At 34, while many of his peers had families and steady jobs, Marcus had only one goal: to survive one more day. He had once been a dreamy kid, the kind who believed he could make it big like the people he saw on TV. But reality had crushed that illusion. Out on the cold streets, with an empty stomach and a pride slowly eroding, Marcus began to think maybe the world wasn't made for people like him. And yet, sometimes, it's in the darkest nights that the first light begins to shine. And yet, sometimes, it's in the darkest nights that the first light begins to shine. Marcus hadn't always been homeless. Before everything fell apart, he was just like anyone else, hardworking, frugal, and hopeful that if he kept pushing forward, life would eventually reward him. He worked as a delivery driver for a local company in Austin, Texas. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough to cover rent for a small apartment and slowly save up for a business idea he'd been quietly nurturing. Then came the accident. A speeding SUV ran a red light and slammed into the side of his car. Marcus survived, but with serious back injuries that forced him to stop working. Then came the medical bills. With no health insurance and no eligibility for unemployment benefits as a contract worker, his entire 3 years of savings vanished in just a few weeks. Friends? A few tried to help, but no one could support him forever. Family? His father had passed away, and his mother was in a nursing home, battling dementia. When he was finally evicted for not paying rent, Marcus officially became homeless, a label society slapped on him without ever asking why. Worse than the hunger, worse than the cold, was the shame. He avoided eye contact, did his best to stay clean by sneaking into public restrooms to wash up. Some nights, he pretended to sleep just so he wouldn't hear people walk by and call him trash. Every morning was a battle not to give up. That's when he started to realize, poverty isn't just about lacking money, it slowly eats away at your pride, your hope, and your belief in yourself. He began to understand that poverty isn't just the absence of money, it's the slow erosion of self-worth, hope, and belief in oneself. There were nights Marcus wanted to disappear. He would stand on a bridge, staring down at the dark water below, wondering, if I jumped, would anyone care? But then, one February morning, something unexpected happened. He was sitting against the wall outside a coffee shop, trying to warm himself in the pale sunlight, when an older man stopped, handed him a cup of hot tea, and asked a simple question. What were you best at before everything fell apart? That question echoed in Marcus's mind the entire day. He had never really thought about it. Eventually, he remembered, he used to be good at selling things online. Before his delivery job, he had made a bit of side income selling handmade goods on eBay, and he had once dreamed of opening his own online store. That night, he made a bold decision. He sold his old backpack, his last valuable possession, to buy a second-hand smartphone. He found free Wi-Fi at the public library and began relearning everything he could about e-commerce. Every day, he spent hours reading articles, watching YouTube tutorials, and jotting down notes on scraps of paper he found. He started sleeping less, but for the first time in months, his spirit began to wake up. Marcus felt like he was doing something, moving towards something. No longer just waiting to be helped, he was fighting his way back. I had nothing left to lose, he would later say, so I started betting everything on myself. I had nothing left to lose, he later said, so I started betting everything on myself. Armed with a used phone and free Wi-Fi from the public library, Marcus began what seemed like an impossible uphill climb. He taught himself how to build an online store from scratch, diving into every tiny detail, how to write compelling product titles, how to optimize photos, how to use platforms like Etsy, Shopify, and Amazon. None of it came easy. There were no mentors, no money for premium courses. But Marcus had time and a determination that couldn't be shaken. By day, he arrived at the library when the doors opened, camping out for hours in a quiet corner near one of the few outlets. By night, he slept at bus stops, sometimes in the backyard of a church. He ate at free meal centers, drank from public water fountains, and saved every spare coin to run test ads on Facebook on a budget of just $1 a day. He failed. Again and again. His first 5 products didn't sell a single unit. His first website got 0 traffic. But Marcus didn't stop. He kept tweaking, rewriting descriptions, adjusting prices, photographing his products using that same battered phone. On the 6th week, it happened, his first sale. A handcrafted wooden bracelet. $12. When the payment confirmation email arrived, he broke down crying in the library bathroom. One order became 10, then 100. With his first steady income, he rented a tiny room again. Having a place to sleep meant he could now work through the night. When a customer from the UK left a glowing review, Marcus realized, this could be real. He wasn't successful yet, but he wasn't homeless anymore. He had started climbing, one step at a time. Marcus wasn't successful yet, but he was no longer homeless. He had begun the climb, one step at a time. After that first sale, things gradually picked up speed. With every product sold, Marcus reinvested every penny of profit into ads, design tools, and supplies. He taught himself how to manage inventory, write ad copy, and analyze customer data. 3 months in, his monthly income surpassed $5,000, a number that once seemed unimaginable for someone who had lived off free soup lines. A year later, Marcus officially launched his own company. From a tiny corner of a weekly rented apartment, he built the handcrafted jewelry brand Grit and Grace, with the motto, "Made by hand, powered by will." His products weren't just beautiful, they carried meaning. Every bracelet, every pendant was named after a chapter in his journey of survival and resilience. It didn't take long for the media to notice. Outlets like Forbes and Entrepreneur featured Marcus as a symbol of grit in an era of crisis. But what made him proudest wasn't revenue, it was the program he created called One Bracelet, One Chance. For every product sold, the company funds a free skills workshop for someone experiencing homelessness who wants to start a business. Marcus never forgot where he came from. On the contrary, he turned it into his purpose. He returned to the same park where he once spent cold nights, bought a nearby abandoned building, and transformed it into a job training center. "I don't want to be a millionaire just to spend money," he said. "I want to be proof that someone like me, who once had nothing, can rise up and help others rise with them." Marcus Gray once had nothing but a heart full of cracks and a fragile hope that somehow, life still had a way out. He wasn't a superhero. He had wanted to give up. He had stood at the edge between existing and disappearing. But he chose to stay and to fight. His story isn't just about becoming a millionaire. It's a reminder that a person's worth isn't defined by their circumstances, but by how they respond to them. In a world where everything can be lost in a single moment, the one thing no one can ever take from you is your will. If you're tired, lost, or on the verge of giving up, remember this: the light isn't always waiting at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes, it begins as the faintest flicker, just enough to help you take one more step. And sometimes, that one step is all it takes to change your whole life.